Chapter 1751. At the same time, Tang Hai also looked at the ice sculpture. There was no reaction on the surface, but there was a trace of anger in the depths of his eyes. Kacha! The cracks on the ice grew larger and larger. Boom! About 10 breaths passed. The ice finally shattered into pieces. After escaping, Mu Tianyang looked around in confusion, then immediately looked at Mu Qing and the other two, and asked, "Where's the ice dragon?" In his eyes, there was still a strong sense of fear. Mu Changfeng comforted him. "Father, don't worry. The ice dragon and small beast have already left." Already left? Mu Tianyang was taken aback. After a long while, he finally regained his senses, and his entire body almost weakened again. The dignified Mu Tianyang was actually scared to such an extent. "Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" Tang Hai said abruptly. "Shut up." Mu Qing immediately shouted. Mu Changfeng and Mu Qing also glared at Tang Hai angrily. This voice. Mu Tianyang looked at Tang Hai suspiciously and said in surprise, "Why are you here?" Then, he looked at the scene in front of him again and said in surprise, "Why would Qin Feiyang fight with the people from the main pagoda?" Mu Qing and Mu Changfeng looked at each other. Mu Changyan said, "Father, you don't know anything?" Mu Tianyang shook his head and said, "After being frozen, I lost consciousness. So that's how it is." The three of them suddenly realized. Mu Changfeng said, "After you were frozen, many things happened." At this moment, the three of them explained in detail about Lu Jiejin's capture, as well as the battle between Qin Feiyang and the others, and the main pagoda. Mu Tianyang frowned. Imperial advisor and Emperor Hong were also rescued? Yes, and I suspect that Zhao Tailai was also taken away by this person. However, we don't know who saved the Imperial advisor and Emperor Hong? Even Qin Feiyang doesn't know. Mu Qing said. Strange on Great Qin's side. Other than the Imperial Preceptor, Emperor Hong and Zhuge Mingyang. Who else is on the second level? Mu Tianyang frowned. Mu Changfeng said. Lord Father, what about Wang Yuanshan and Marquis Wu Xinhou? They are all inside Wang Su's spatial divine item. Mu Tianyang sneered. Wang Su must have kidnapped Marquis Wuxian for Wang Yuanshan. What do you mean? Mu Changfeng frowned. That's right. Wang Yuanshan is under my control. If the main pagoda wants to save him, they need to have a bargaining chip. And Marquis Wu Xinhou is their bargaining chip. In other words, the main pagoda will use Marquis Wu Xinhou to threaten me and remove my control over Wang Yuanshan. Therefore, there is no need to worry about Marquis Wu Xinhou's safety for now. However, the fact that people from the main tower have come to attack us is somewhat out of my expectations. Fortunately, I was prepared in advance and gave the spatial divine item to Mu Qing. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would have been completely wiped out this time. Mu Tianyang shook his head and smiled bitterly. Mu Changfeng and Mu Changyan nodded. Ice Dragon. What is this beast's cultivation level? In just an instant it actually crippled all of us? Thinking of the situation at that time, Mu Tianyang couldn't help but tremble. Mu Changfeng said, Father, don't think about the past. The most important thing is to capture Li Jian and snatch Tang Hai's Qingkuan bag. Tang Hai frowned slightly when he heard this. We must snatch the Qingkuan bag, but the people on the Imperial Preceptor's side shouldn't let us succeed so easily. After all, the sarcophagus that the demon ancestor wants is also in the Qingkuan bag. Let's wait for an opportunity. Mu Tianyang pondered for a moment, then raised his head to look at the battlefield on the screen and said, Wait, Zhuge Mingyang has been killed, and the Imperial Preceptor and Emperor Hong's cultivation has been crippled. Even if they want to stop us, they can't. Master, I think we should take advantage of the fact that the Imperial Preceptor and Emperor Hong haven't repaired their Qi Cs and immediately make a move. Mu Qing said, I know this is an opportunity, but the mysterious person who saved the Imperial Preceptor and Emperor Hong makes me a little uneasy. Moreover, haven't you noticed? Mu Tianyang's gaze turned and suddenly looked at Tang Hai and said, His Qi Si is about to be repaired. Mu Qing and Mu Changfeng were shocked and immediately looked at Tang Hai. Tang Hai's gaze also trembled slightly. Shua. The next moment, Mu Tianyang waved his hand, and a strand of divine sense flew out, directly entering Tang Hai's lower abdomen. The qi si that had yet to be repaired shattered once again. Tang Hai spat out a mouthful of blood, staring at Mu Tianyang, his eyes flashing with an astonishing ferocious light. That's right. With the help of the cedar, his qi si was about to be repaired. His original plan was to wait until his qi si was repaired before immediately making a move on Mu Qing and Mu Changfeng. Mu Qing was only a war king. Mu Changfeng and Mu Changfeng had also consumed spirit sea pills, so the speed at which they repaired their qi si could not keep up with the cedar. As long as he recovered his cultivation, taking down these three people would be easy. At that time, even if Mu Tianyang woke up, even if the blood blade was not sealed, he still had a bargaining chip in his hand to make Mu Tianyang hesitate. But what he did not expect was that Mu Tianyang actually broke out of the ice so quickly. What he did not expect was that Mu Tianyang saw through his condition at a glance and shattered his qi si again. Now to repair his qi si, it would take a lot of time. Mu Tianyang looked at Tang Hai and sneered. You are quite smart, standing aside without saying anything, waiting for an opportunity, but we are not stupid. Hearing Mu Tianyang's words, Mu Qing and Mu Changfeng immediately lowered their heads in shame. This they really did not expect. Their hearts were also filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, Mu Tianyang escaped in time. Otherwise, when Tang Hai's qi si was repaired, the consequences would be unimaginable. Tang Hai remained silent. Looking at Qin Feiyang in the image, he muttered, Young master, there's nothing I can do. I can only rely on you now. Mu Tianyang did not say anything else, and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang. Suddenly, he turned to look at Mu Qing and the other two, and said, Just now, you said that Qin Feiyang's ancient castle was sealed by a small beast? Yes. The three of them nodded. Mu Tianyang hurriedly took out the blood blade, and sent his consciousness into it. Boom! A peerless sharpness immediately surged out. Haha! The blood blade is not sealed. Mu Tianyang laughed loudly, looked at Qin Feiyang again and said, Chang Shui has been robbed, and the castle has been sealed. How are you going to fight with me in the future? Outside, the various battlefields were extremely intense. Yu Huang and the chief pagoda master were locked in a fierce battle. As for the deputy pavilion master and Wang Su, although they had divine artifacts, facing the desperate attacks of Cui Li and the others, they were already riddled with scars. The golden divine leopard was even crazier, directly suppressing the aquiline-nosed old man. But the most exciting battle was still the battle between Qin Feiyang and the monkey-faced old man. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was completely in a state of enjoyment. All kinds of divine arts were evolved to the extreme by him. His fighting spirit, battle intent, and aura were becoming more and more terrifying. The monkey-faced old man was also intimidated by his aura, and seemed to be tiptoeing. Swish! But suddenly, a figure appeared in the void not far away. That's right. It was Mu Tianyang. Chapter 1752. Mu Tianyang. As soon as Mu Tianyang appeared, Cui Li and the others, as well as the chief pagoda master, all of their faces changed. Cui Li shouted, Li Jian, the Qingquan bag is on you. His target must be you, run. Li Jian nodded. Now was not the time to act on impulse. He immediately turned around and flew towards Qin Feiyang. Humph! Mu Tianyang gave a cold snort. Sure enough, he went straight for Li Jian. His speed was even faster than Li Jian's. Li Jian anxiously took out his Qingquan bag and threw it towards Qin Feiyang. Young master, catch it! However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to his words and fought with the monkey-faced old man. Young master! Li Jian roared and quickly chased after Qin Feiyang. He grabbed the Qingquan pouch and looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. What was going on? Why did he ignore him? Hand it over. Mu Tianyang had already caught up. I won't give it to you even if I die. Li Jian turned back to look at Mu Tianyang, his gaze incomparably resolute. This Qingquan bag was not only related to the future, but also the lives of Tang Hai and Zhao Tailai. Even if he died, he had to protect it. You want to die? I'll grant you your wish. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed with killing intent as the blood blade appeared. It's not sealed. Li Jian's pupils constricted. Cui Li and the others also turned pale. This was not only a problem that Qin Feiyang was worried about, but also a problem that they were worried about. The blood blade was a heaven-defying artifact. The ancient castle was sealed and Chang Shui was stolen. This meant that they no longer had the ability to compete with the blood blade. Die! Mu Tianyang sneered, and his body was filled with killing intent. The blood blade cut through the sky and attacked Li Jian. Li Jian gritted his teeth and kept the Qingquan bag. He activated his fighting soul and attacked the blood blade. But the fighting soul was like a withered tree under the blood blade. Too terrifying. Li Jian couldn't help but feel despair when he sensed the destructive aura emitted by the blood blade. Li Jian, come to us quickly. Suddenly, an old voice echoed in Li Jian's mind. Li Jian's spirit was roused. He lowered his head and saw Yi Shu and the mysterious madam looking at him. However, he was somewhat hesitant. The two of them were completely devoid of any aura. Clearly, their chi seas had yet to recover. If they continued down, not only would they not be able to escape, they would even implicate the two of them. Wait a minute. Yi Shu was transmitting his voice to him. After losing his cultivation, he would not be able to transmit his voice. In other words, his cultivation base had been restored. Don't dawdle, hurry up. The mysterious lady thought. In that instant, Bloodblade arrived. That terrifying sharpness tore apart his clothes, leaving ghastly wounds on his body. Blood flowed freely. Li Jian quivered and hurriedly swooped down towards the two of them. Seeing this, with a thought, Mu Tianyang's blood blade stopped in midair. He looked at Yi Shu and the mysterious madam with a hint of bewilderment in his eyes. Why was Li Jian flying towards them? Could it be that their chi seas had been restored? However, if their chi seas had been restored, their bodies should also have aura? At the same time, the mysterious madam and Yi Shu also looked at Mu Tianyang with a sneer on their faces. Looking at their expressions, it seems that their chi seas, Mu Tianyang murmured. No. Suddenly, murderous intent surged in his eyes. If their chi seas had really been restored, they would have already made a move. But now, the two of them were just standing there without any intention of making a move. What did this mean? It meant that they did not dare to make a move. Not daring to make a move, it meant that their chi seas had not been restored. In other words, the two of them were just pretending to be calm to scare him. Not bad, they almost scared me. Thinking of this, Mu Tianyang smiled coldly. The blood blade turned in the air and charged towards the three of them with monstrous killing intent. They actually didn't fall for it. The mysterious madam sighed in a low voice. Yi Shu also shook his head with a look of regret. Don't you know who I am? Would I be so easily fooled? Mu Tianyang sneered. Li Jian had already rushed in front of the two of them. The mysterious madam stared at the blood blade and transmitted her voice. You must protect the Qingquan bag. I know. Li Jian secretly said and retreated behind the two of them. The mysterious madam took a deep breath and transmitted her voice to Yi Shu again. I will hold back the blood blade. You go and crush his divine sense body for me. Okay. Yi Shu secretly replied. While they were talking, the blood blade had already attacked. Boom! The mysterious madam's aura suddenly erupted. Divine power surged out, forming a thick divine power shield that blocked in front of him. Boom! The blood blade blasted the shield, which instantly disintegrated. However, the blood blade was also blocked. Immediately after, the mysterious madam made a move again. Divine power roared in all directions, turning into thick iron chains that pierced through the air and firmly bound the blood blade. At the same time, Yi Shu also used teleportation, charging towards Mu Tianyang like lightning. The mysterious madam and Yi Shu's move made Mu Tianyang extremely shocked. Misjudgment? The two of them had already recovered their cultivation base. When he came back to his senses, the blood blade was already bound, and Yi Shu was already in front of him. Boom! Yi Shu punched out, his divine power pouring out like a waterfall. Mu Tianyang's divine sense body collapsed on the spot. The wisps of divine sense were constantly being obliterated by the divine power. In less than 3 breaths, Mu Tianyang had lost a few thousand wisps of divine sense. Even he couldn't bear such a loss. Bastard! Mu Tianyang roared in exasperation. His divine sense escaped into the void, and in an instant, he appeared thousands of miles away. You're sure you're difficult to deal with, but have you heard of the saying, cleverness overcomes cleverness? You think we're bluffing? But actually, we're tricking you into attacking. How is it? You should have lost a lot of divine sense just now, right? Yishu sneered. Haha, you're right. Cleverness overcomes cleverness. I admit that I underestimated you before, but if you think you can defeat me like this, then you're gravely mistaken. A heaven-defying artifact isn't something ants like you can touch. Mu Tianyang laughed heartily, his expression filled with contempt. With a thought, the blood blade began to tremble and emit an ear-piercing sound. The iron chain that bound the blood blade immediately began to crack. The mysterious lady tried her best, but she couldn't stop it. Crack. In an instant, the iron chain shattered. The freed blood blade was like a runaway horse, charging straight for the mysterious lady's forehead. The mysterious lady's expression changed. She tilted her head, and the blood blade brushed past her ear, leaving a bloody wound. A heaven-defying artifact is indeed extraordinary, the mysterious lady murmured. Even a war god would find it difficult to do anything against a heaven-defying artifact. Whoosh! The blood blade missed its target, then suddenly turned around and attacked Li Jian, who was behind the mysterious lady. Li Jian's face was pale. At the critical moment, the mysterious madam grabbed Li Jian and disappeared without a trace. Obviously, she also had a space artifact. Congratulations to the two of you. You've completely angered me. Seeing Li Jian being sent away, Mu Tianyang was furious. The mysterious lady's eyes flashed with killing intent and shouted, "If you dare to attack again, I'll let Li Jian destroy Mu Tianjuan's divine body." You, Mu Tianyang glared at her. Don't think that I don't dare. The mysterious lady said. Mu Tianyang was furious and roared, Bloodblade, wake up on your own, and help me kill her and break her space artifact. However, the Bloodblade didn't wake up on its own. Don't you understand these heaven-defying artifacts? Unless your life is in danger, how can it wake up on its own? Besides, this is the second level of the miracle. Maybe Small Beast and Ice Dragon are still watching us from somewhere. The mysterious lady sneered. Small Beast, Ice Dragon. Mu Tianyang's eyes trembled as he looked around in shock. Don't say. There was really such a possibility. After thinking about it again and again, Mu Tianyang finally chose to endure. If Small Beast and Ice Dragon were really hiding somewhere, maybe the Blood Blade would be sealed by Small Beast just like the castle. At that time, the loss would outweigh the gain. With a slight thought, the Blood Blade immediately turned into a bloody light, streaking across the sky and disappearing into his divine sense body. The mysterious lady smiled and said, That's right. It's easy for us to get along like this. Humph. Mu Tianyang snorted and looked up at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. What's wrong with this guy? Why did he ignore Li Jian's request for help? What was even more strange was that this bastard kid was smiling more and more brightly. Swish. Yi Shu flashed and landed in front of the mysterious lady, laughing in a low voice. He's completely immersed in the battle. Yes, I have a hunch that this battle will let him be reborn again. The mysterious lady smiled. Yi Shu smiled and transmitted his voice. Madam, when are you going to reveal your identity to him? The mysterious lady was stunned and frowned. Is that necessary? Of course. At least let him know about your relationship with him, lest he always suspects that you have ulterior motives. Yi Shu thought to himself. The mysterious lady sighed. To be honest, I really don't know how to tell him after hiding it from him for so long. Yi Shu smiled. Madam, I think it's not that you don't know how to tell him, but that you're worried that he won't accept you. After all, you and the Qin Emperor weren't together so openly back then. You old man. The mysterious lady rolled her eyes at Yi Shu and looked up at Qin Feiyang with a complicated expression. A moment later, the mysterious lady retracted her gaze and turned to look at the Chief Tower Master and the others, her eyes flashing with cold light. Seeing this, Yi Shu transmitted his voice. Madam, are we going to attack them? The mysterious lady snorted. It's time to settle the old scores with them. Go and cripple them. Yes. Yi Shu responded respectfully, and immediately teleported away, disappearing from sight. What's going on? Noticing this, Mu Tianyang looked at the mysterious lady suspiciously, then turned to look at Yi Shu. When he realized that Yi Shu was actually going for the Chief Tower Master, Mu Tianyang's expression turned cold, and he said gloomily, "If I don't move, you'd better not move either." The mysterious lady looked at Mu Tianyang and said in a low voice, "This is a personal grudge between me and the Chief Tower Master. You'd better stay out of it." Personal grudge? Chapter 1753. Thinking of this, Mu Tianyang did not stop Yi Shu, because he had always been very curious about the mysterious madam's identity. Whoosh! Yi Shu was too fast. It was almost impossible for false gods to track him down. Yu Huang and the Chief Tower Master were fighting happily, but suddenly, Yi Shu arrived and attacked without saying a word. There was no suspense. The Chief Tower Master's Sea of Qi was destroyed on the spot. After losing his cultivation, his whole body immediately fell to the ground below. The halberd in his hand also flew out and sank into the ground in the distance. Yu Huang was stunned. He glared at Yi Shu and said with dissatisfaction, "Old man, what are you doing? He's my opponent." "Sorry to interrupt your fun, but the current situation is not good for us, so we have to end this quickly," Yi Shu said apologetically. With a wave of his old hand, the halberd that sank into the ground suddenly broke out of the ground. He grabbed it in his hand, directly erased the blood contract inside, and put it away. Then, he rushed toward the murderous Vice Tower Master and Wang Su. Seeing this, Wang Su and the former Vice Tower Master's eyes darkened. They split Cui Li and the 6 elders with their swords and rushed toward each other like lightning. Cui Li shouted, "Stop them, they want to enter the Space Divine Artifact." 3 of the elders immediately caught up with the former Vice Tower Master and stopped him at all costs. "Damn it!" Wang Su roared and decisively entered the Space Divine Artifact first. Whoosh! Yi Shu did not care about him, and directly rushed toward the former Vice Tower Master. There was no suspense. The former Vice Tower Master's aura was also destroyed on the spot. As for his divine artifact, it was also taken away by Yi Shu. Yu Huang immediately said with dissatisfaction, "Old man, you're too dishonest. We've been fighting for so long, and you took away 2 divine artifacts at once?" Hee. Yi Shu smiled, grabbed the Vice Tower Master, and rushed in front of the Chief Tower Master. The Chief Tower Master roared, "You damn traitor! I was really blind to have trusted you so much." "Traitor? This old man has never betrayed anyone. It's the same in the past, and it's the same now." Yi Shu snorted coldly, with one hand holding the former Vice Pavilion Master and the Chief Tower Master in the other. He flew into the air and landed in front of the mysterious lady. "Well done." The mysterious lady smiled. Yi Shu sighed. "It's a pity that Wang Su escaped. Don't worry. He'll take the initiative to come out later." The mysterious lady waved her hand. Yi Shu nodded and threw the Chief Tower Master and the former Vice Tower Master in front of the mysterious lady. The Chief Tower Master glanced at the mysterious madam, then turned to Yi Shu and roared, "She is an enemy of our Chief Tower. Not only did you not kill her, but you followed her like a dog, and you dare say you are not a traitor? How dare you?" Yi Shu was furious. "Do you know who she is? If we're talking about a traitor, it should be you." "What do you mean?" The Chief Pagoda Master said in a deep voice. "You know very well what I mean." Yi Shu sneered. The Chief Tower Master had a suspicious look on his face. The mysterious madam glanced at the Chief Pagoda Master and said, "Yi Shu, go help Shinbao." "What about Qin Feiyang?" Yi Shu asked. "Him. He doesn't need our help anymore." The mysterious madam smiled, her expression full of confidence. Yi Shu nodded, looked at the golden divine leopard and the old man with a hawk nose, and was about to rush forward. "No need. Stay here, or I'll beat you up too." But at this moment, the golden divine leopard shouted. Yi Shu was stunned, and turned to look at the mysterious madam. "It's us who are nosy." The mysterious madam smiled helplessly and said lightly, "Let it be." Yi Shu also shook his head bitterly. In the past, it was usually others who asked him for help. But now, he took the initiative to help. And the golden divine leopard was not happy? How heartbreaking. However, judging from the current situation, his help was indeed not needed. Because the battle between the golden divine leopard and the old man with a hawk nose was about to end. The golden divine leopard's divine shield had not reached its time limit. In other words, after it broke through to the war god level, it had been using the divine shield. Therefore, during this fierce battle, the old man with a hawk nose did his best, but did not cause any damage to it. Instead, it was the old man with a hawk nose who was heavily injured. Until now, his body was already dripping with blood, and his upper body had 3 fist-sized bloody holes. He even lost an arm. Before the golden divine leopard broke through to the war god level, the old man with a hawk nose could not do anything to it, let alone now. Bang bang bang. Boom. After another bloody battle, the golden divine leopard's claw landed on the old man's lower abdomen. The terrifying divine power was earth-shattering. Accompanied by a shrill scream, the old man's lower abdomen was directly pierced by the golden divine leopard's claw. Immediately, the old man with a hawk nose was like a kite with a broken string, smashing into the ground below. Powerful. With the divine shield activated, there shouldn't be many people in the same realm who can fight it. The mysterious madam murmured, "Old bastard, how dare you provoke us? You're simply courting death. Today is your end." The golden divine leopard cackled, its expression full of disdain. It turned into a golden divine light and swooped down with monstrous ferocity towards the old man with a hawk nose. The mysterious madam came back to her senses and hurriedly shouted, "Junior leopard, don't kill him." "What do you mean?" The golden divine leopard was stunned. Mu Tianyang, the chief tower master, the former deputy tower master, Chui Li, and the others were also stunned. Even the old man with a hawk nose looked at the mysterious madam in shock. Weren't they enemies? Why was she pleading for him? "You think I won't kill him just because you said so?" The golden divine leopard snorted and continued to attack the old man with a hawk nose. "Yi Shu!" The mysterious madam shouted. Yi Shu took a step forward and instantly stood in front of the old man. He looked up at the ferocious golden divine leopard and cupped his hands. "Can you give us some face?" His attitude was very sincere. The golden divine leopard raised its eyebrows and looked at the mysterious madam. It said angrily, "What do you mean by this?" "You'll understand in the future," the mysterious madam said. The golden divine leopard was quite annoyed. It glanced at the mysterious madam, Yi Shu, and the old man with a hawk nose for a moment and snorted. "It's not up to you or me to decide whether to kill him or not. It's up to the young master. If the young master says to let him go, I will let him go." "Okay. We'll wait for Qin Feiyang to make the decision." The mysterious madam nodded and then looked at Yi Shu. "Take his Qingquan bag and bring him here." "Yes." Yi Shu nodded and bent down to grab the old man's Qingquan bag. Then, he dragged the old man back to the mysterious madam. "Why?" The old man with a hawk nose looked at the mysterious madam and asked. The mysterious madam said expressionlessly, "Before I say anything, you'd better not ask again." The old man with a hawk nose frowned and looked at the chief tower master and the former deputy tower master. He then looked up at the monkey-faced old man and murmured, "If even you are defeated by Qin Feiyang, then we'll really be wiped out. We can't lose. He won't be able to win." The mysterious madam sneered and said to herself, "Yi Shu, release your divine sense and watch carefully. Don't let Wang Su and Mu Tianyang's accomplices come out to stir up trouble." "Okay." Yi Shu nodded. His divine sense spread out and covered tens of thousands of miles. In this tens of thousands of miles, he found that there were 3 divine space items. Apart from Mu Tianyang and Wang Su, who do the other divine space items belong to? He raised his eyebrows slightly. The extra divine space item must belong to the person who saved the state preceptor and Emperor Hong. But he really couldn't figure out the identity of this person. Boom! High up in the sky, seeing the chief tower master, the former deputy tower master, and the old man with a hawk nose being captured one after another, the monkey-faced old man couldn't help but panic. But his attacks were getting fiercer and fiercer, because he also knew that there was only one way out of the predicament of the chief tower. and that was to capture Qin Feiyang. As long as he captured Qin Feiyang, not only could he open up the situation, but he could also turn the tables. Boom. Crack. With a wave of his hand, a divine art appeared out of nowhere, carrying a destructive aura as it blasted toward Qin Feiyang. Roar. Qin Feiyang also evolved the 3 moves of the divine dragon art, which collided with the monkey-faced old man's divine art. Puff. Purple-gold dragon blood dyed the sky, but in this regard, Qin Feiyang didn't react at all, as if he had lost consciousness, and smiled incomparably brightly. Keep smiling, what the hell are you smiling about? The monkey-faced old man was furious. As a dignified war god, he couldn't take down a false god, which already made him extremely angry, but Qin Feiyang still kept smiling, as if mocking his incompetence. So, every time he saw the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, he couldn't help but go crazy. But Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear as usual. The 3 moves of the returning ruins, the sun and moon eclipse, the fire phoenix art, the divine dragon art, and the 3,000 incarnations were constantly evolving, and the divine power shrouded the world. From afar, it was like a meteor, endlessly attacking the monkey-faced old man. The monkey-faced old man's methods were also very astonishing. No matter how many divine arts Qin Feiyang evolved, they were all shattered one by one. The situation was getting more and more tense. Such a situation made the monkey-faced old man, who was eager to win, more and more irritated. On the other hand, Qin Feiyang's expression was indifferent, and his eyes were also calm. He was completely immersed in the battle. Now, not only did he no longer hate fighting, but he also liked fighting. Fighting made him feel very happy. And as time passed, everyone slowly discovered that the speed at which Qin Feiyang evolved the divine art seemed to be faster than before. Moreover, the power of the divine art was also gradually increasing. Is it an illusion? The monkey-faced old man also gradually discovered this point. After fighting for so long, suffering such heavy injuries, and losing so much blood, shouldn't he be getting weaker and weaker? It must be an illusion. Clang. Suddenly, red sword chi emerged from Qin Feiyang's body, turning into sword shadows that slashed towards the monkey-faced old man. Each sword shadow was hundreds of feet long, and its sharpness could topple mountains and overturn seas. Guthuan sword technique. Battle art. But the monkey-faced old man frowned. With his cultivation and eyesight, he could see at a glance that these sword shadows were only evolved from battle art. He actually changed to battle art. Looking down on him? Too much. It was really too much. The anger in his heart was uncontrollable. Genius remembered the address of this site in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1754. Using a battle art to deal with a god of war like him. Wasn't it obvious that he was humiliating him? The monkey-faced old man furiously attacked. Divine power roared in all directions, destroying heaven and earth. Clang, 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 clang. The sword shadows continued to shatter, turning into pieces of pure false god power that drifted in the void and dissipated. However, Qin Feiyang still didn't use a divine art. The Guyuan sword art once again evolved. After stepping into the false god realm, Qin Feiyang could already evolve 60 sword shadows, covering the sky and earth, as they attacked the monkey-faced old man. You're still using a battle art, this is outrageous. The monkey-faced old man flew into a rage. Divine power was like a tide drowning the sky. No matter how many sword shadows there were, they couldn't stop the bombardment of divine power. The sword shadows shattered one after another. But at the same time, one sword shadow after another evolved. Moreover, the evolution speed was getting faster and faster. Even Cui Li and the others who were also false gods gradually couldn't catch Qin Feiyang's movements. At this moment, Qin Feiyang gave people a feeling of ethereal. His eyes were so calm that it was frightening. Boom. Another sword shadow appeared out of nowhere. However, the power emitted by this sword shadow had suddenly increased by a level. Shockingly, it carried a shocking divine might. How could this be? The monkey-faced old man was dumbfounded. This is, at the same time, the chief pagoda master, and the others also widened their eyes in anger. He actually upgraded the level of his battle art during the battle. In other words, He upgraded the Guyuan sword art to a divine art. I see, Mu Tianyang muttered. Previously, he was wondering why Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to Li Jian's request. It turned out that he had entered an ethereal state. In this ethereal state, it was equivalent to sealing oneself and not being able to hear anything from the outside world. And now his battle with the monkey-faced old man was completely subconscious. In other words, he wasn't really fighting with the monkey-faced old man. You actually used me to upgrade the level of your battle art. How hateful. The monkey-faced old man came back to his senses and immediately became angry. He stepped forward, divine power gushing out from his palm, and the sword shadows were all shattered into pieces. When he got close to Qin Feiyang, he immediately raised his arm and punched towards Qin Feiyang's forehead. However, Qin Feiyang didn't panic and was as calm as ever. He took a step forward and instantly disappeared in front of the monkey-faced old man. Art. Right now, he's probably already forgotten that there's such an opponent. Everything is just an instinctive reaction. The mysterious Lady Merce, of course. Enjoy the battle, fight non-stop, sublimate and transform in the midst of battle. What other surprises can it bring us? Yeses with of Yesus us the moment Qin Feiyang disappeared. The monkey-faced old man immediately released his divine sense and caught Qin Feiyang's trace in the void behind him. He roared again and again. He couldn't take down a mere false god. This kind of humiliation almost made him lose his mind. Boom! But Qin Feiyang remained silent and performed the 4 moves of the ruins of End. An invisible force roared in the void. Another shocking scene appeared. The power of the 4 moves of the ruins of End also increased by a level. Haha, not bad, not bad. First it was the Guyuan sword art, and now it's the ruins of End. This kid's combat strength has increased by several levels. The mysterious lady laughed. Yi Shu smiled. Madam, you were the one who gave him the ruins of End, right? Yes. I really didn't expect him to be able to improve the ruins of End to such a level. The mysterious lady sighed. When she first gave the ruins of End to Qin Feiyang, it was only a perfect battle art. The ruins of End had undergone 2 transformations. The first time, it evolved into a divine art. This time, it was another level above the foundation of the divine art. The power of the ruins of End was no longer the same as before. Boom! The evolved ruins of End carried a monstrous aura as it pounced towards the monkey-faced old man. Don't be too arrogant. The monkey-faced old man roared. The divine art appeared and attacked. After all, he was a war god. How could the ruins of End be blocked by the ruins of End? The invisible force immediately disintegrated. Qin Feiyang also spat out a mouthful of blood. But with the battle art protecting his body, he didn't suffer any fatal injuries. Boom! He didn't stop and evolved the 2 divine arts, Sun and Moon Eclipse and Fire Phoenix art. Whether it was Sun and Moon Eclipse or Fire Phoenix art, their power increased by a level. The power emitted by Fire Phoenix art was even comparable to Lu Jiejin's Fire Phoenix art. Is he going to evolve all the deity techniques? This time, even the mysterious lady couldn't calm down. Usually, people who entered this ethereal state would at most evolve 1 or 2 divine arts before it would end. But this kid first evolved the Guyuan sword art to a divine art, and now he continuously upgraded the ruins of End, Sun and Moon Eclipse, and Fire Phoenix art by a level. What was even more excessive was that looking at his current state, after upgrading the Fire Phoenix art, he still hadn't reached the end. In other words, he might continue to do so. As expected, Qin Feiyang evolved the Divine Dragon art again. Divine Dragon Seal, and the third move, Supreme of the 9 and 5, appeared one after another. Dragon might rolled in all directions, causing the void to tremble. Roar. Rumble. The aura of the 3 divine arts soared crazily. Everyone was dumbfounded by what they saw. Qin Feiyang had used the Divine Dragon art more than once or twice. Everyone knew its power. And now, the Divine Dragon Seal, Divine Dragon Roar, and Supreme of the 9 and 5 had far surpassed the past. Boom! Suddenly, the aura of the 3 divine arts soared to an unprecedented level. Even the monkey-faced old man couldn't help but tremble at this moment. At the same time, A stone door gradually condensed in Qin Feiyang's sea of consciousness. The stone door was very small, floating beside the soul, emitting a hazy purple-gold divine light. This was the fourth move of the divine dragon art, the Gate of Rebirth. After the Gate of Reincarnation appeared, a statue of a deity also appeared. The third move, Supreme of the 9 and 5. Next, another purple-gold divine dragon, and a divine seal condensed in the sea of consciousness one after another. It was the second and first move of the divine dragon art. These were the forms of the four divine arts. They surrounded Qin Feiyang's soul, emitting a vast aura. Outside, divine dragon seal, divine dragon roar, and Supreme of the 9 and 5 had already rushed towards the monkey-faced old man. The divine power of the three divine arts shook the world, causing the void to crack. What? The void shattered. This is something that only a war god can do. How can he do it? The chief pagoda master and the others were bewildered. Mu Tianyang's pupils also shrank and said in a deep voice, "There's only one explanation." What? Everyone looked at him in surprise. Perfect divine art. Mu Tianyang said word by word. Perfect divine art? Everyone became more and more suspicious. That's right. Perfect divine art. Divine arts are the same as battle arts. They are divided into low, middle, high, and perfect. The power of a perfect divine art is enough to shatter the void. Mu Tianyang said. In that case, the divine dragon art was only a high-tier divine art in the past? The chief pagoda master said. Wrong. When Qin Batian created the divine dragon art, it was only a low-tier divine art. Later, he raised the level of the divine dragon art again and again. When he disappeared, the divine dragon art had already been raised to the level of a high-tier divine art. Therefore, when Qin Feiyang obtained the inheritance of the divine dragon art, it was naturally a high-tier divine art. Now, Qin Feiyang raised the divine dragon art to another level, so it evolved into a perfect divine art. Mu Tianyang said. So that's how it is. It's unbelievable. Not only did he create such a terrifying divine art, but he also raised the divine dragon art to a high-tier divine art. If the Qin Emperor was still alive, it's hard to imagine how powerful the divine dragon art would be now. I'm afraid it would have already evolved to the level of a perfect divine art. Cui Li sighed. Mu Tianyang said. That's for sure. Suddenly, a painful scream sounded in the sky. Everyone looked up and saw that the monkey-faced old man was seriously injured by the three divine arts. His body was almost torn apart. Divine blood dyed the sky red. This was the first time he had been seriously injured since he fought with Qin Feiyang. If this continues, Qin Feiyang will probably turn the tables. The chief pagoda master murmured, his expression full of worry. But just when everyone thought that Qin Feiyang would take advantage of the victory to pursue, Qin Feiyang suddenly closed his eyes. What's going on? Everyone was surprised. He should have awakened from the ethereal state. Mu Tianyang said. However, before he could finish speaking, numerous figures appeared behind Qin Feiyang one after another. These people looked exactly the same as Qin Feiyang. It was the 3,000 incarnations. He actually took this opportunity to comprehend the profound meaning of the 3,000 incarnations. Mu Tianyang's eyes trembled. Not long after, 100 incarnations appeared. But it did not stop. 101, 102, 103. The incarnations continued to increase. Soon, there were as many as 200 incarnations behind Qin Feiyang. No, I can't let him continue to grow like this. Otherwise, when I return to the great Qin Empire, even if I fuse with the divine body and my cultivation returns to its peak state, I'm afraid it will be difficult to take him down. Mu Tianyang murmured. Little bastard, go to hell. But just as Mu Tianyang was about to make a move, the monkey-faced old man suddenly roared, his entire body overflowing with hostility. Clang! With a wave of his hand, a snow-white longbow appeared. It was as flawless as jade, and emitted a dazzling light. Divine weapon! Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed. It seemed that he did not need to make a move. However, the mysterious lady's expression changed. She did not expect that this person was actually hiding a divine weapon on him. Cui Li glanced at Mu Tianyang and transmitted his voice to the mysterious lady. Don't worry, young master also has a divine weapon on him. The mysterious lady said to herself. I know that he definitely has a divine weapon, but that divine bow is not an ordinary divine weapon. So what? Not a single divine artifact on the young master's body is ordinary. As long as it's not a heaven-defying divine weapon, it won't be able to hurt young master. The only person we have to be careful of is Mu Tianyang. Right now, only he can hurt young master. Chui Li said to himself. The mysterious lady looked at Chui Li suspiciously, and then looked up at Qin Fei Yang. The worry in her heart did not dissipate. Chapter 1755. Clang. While Chui Li and the mysterious lady were talking, the monkey-faced old man had already awakened the godly bow. He pulled the bowstring and condensed his divine power into an arrow. It was dazzling and sharp, producing a deafening metallic sound. At the same time, the number of avatars behind Qin Fei Yang had reached 300, and it was still increasing. Little bastard, go to hell! The monkey-faced old man roared as the arrow pierced through the air. Wherever it went, the void collapsed crazily. This was the true awakening of a godly weapon. If Qin Fei Yang was hurt by this arrow, he would definitely die. Clang. However, just as Qin Fei Yang's life was in danger, the divine phoenix blade awakened on its own with an earth-shaking explosion. It floated above Qin Fei Yang's head, releasing endless flames. Chirp. Following closely, with a loud phoenix cry, a godly phoenix rushed out of the flames and headed straight for the arrow, automatically protecting its owner. This godly weapon must have a weapon spirit. The mysterious lady murmured. No wonder Chui Li was so confident. The divine phoenix blade was so terrifying. Before, Qin Fei Yang had used the divine phoenix blade to fight the monkey-faced old man, so she knew about the existence of the divine phoenix blade. But because Qin Fei Yang could not fully awaken the divine phoenix blade, she did not know that the divine phoenix blade had a weapon spirit. Boom! In an instant, the godly phoenix and the arrow violently collided. Both of them were destroyed in the void. It was obvious that the godly bow in the monkey-faced old man's hand was of the same level as the divine phoenix blade. Both of them had a weapon spirit. Damn it, why is this happening? If I knew this would happen, I would have used the godly bow from the beginning. The monkey-faced old man roared in exasperation. Even if you used the godly bow from the beginning, it would not have made much of a difference. Because as long as the young master's life is threatened, the divine phoenix blade will awaken on its own. In short, you will never be able to kill the young master. Chui Li sneered. Shut up. The monkey-faced old man roared as he frantically pulled the godly bow. Arrow after arrow flew towards Qin Fei Yang, but they were all blocked by the divine phoenix blade. At this very moment, the number of incarnations behind Qin Fei Yang had reached 500. If nothing went wrong, he would be able to raise the 3,000 incarnations to the lesser success stage. Once he reaches the minor completion stage, he will be able to create 1,000 clones. At that time, he will have the ability to kill an initial stage battle god. After all, the divine dragon technique had evolved into a perfect divine technique. However, at this moment, Mu Tianyang suddenly attacked. His blood blade streaked across the sky like a bolt of lightning, slashing towards Qin Fei Yang. Mu Tianyang, what are you doing? The mysterious lady was immediately enraged. However, Mu Tianyang turned a deaf ear to him, and his eyes emitted a bone-piercing coldness. Facing the blood blade, the divine phoenix blade did not hesitate at all, and directly entered Qin Fei Yang's body. It wasn't that it wasn't loyal, but it knew its place. This was because the blood blade was a heaven-defying divine artifact. Even if it sacrificed itself to block it, it still wouldn't be able to block it. This time, Qin Fei Yang was facing the risk of being killed by the blood blade head-on. Seeing that Mu Tianyang had no intention of stopping, the mysterious lady's eyes flashed with a cold light, and shouted, Li Jian, destroy Mu Tianjuan's divine body for me. Mu Tianyang's body trembled slightly, but in the end, he still chose to continue killing Qin Fei Yang. Because in his opinion, Qin Fei Yang's threat was already far greater than Mu Tianjuan's divine body. The blood blade arrived in an instant, just as Qin Fei Yang was about to be killed by the blood blade. Suddenly, Qin Fei Yang opened his eyes, and 2 rays of divine light shot out. Following closely, He took a step forward and instantly appeared on the other side of the void. Then he lowered his head and looked at Mu Tianyang and said angrily, "You really make people angry. Is that so?" Mu Tianyang chuckled. The blood blade cut through the sky and returned to his side, laughing. "Although it's a pity that I couldn't kill you, but to be able to interrupt your ethereal state, it's not in vain." Because he knew very well in his heart that killing Qin Feiyang was not that easy. Therefore, from the beginning, his plan was to interrupt Qin Feiyang's ethereal state and prevent Qin Feiyang from continuing to become stronger. Qin Feiyang coldly glanced at Mu Tianyang, then raised his head to look at the monkey-faced old man, and said, "Although you made me bleed a lot, I still have to thank you." The monkey-faced old man's face was gloomy. Qin Feiyang laughed. "Tell me, how should I repay you?" The mysterious lady glanced at the monkey-faced old man, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Feiyang, let's stop here." "Stop here?" Qin Feiyang lowered his head to look at the mysterious lady and sneered. "Do you think that's possible?" Clang. As soon as the words fell, the divine phoenix blade appeared, and 3 types of false god force madly rushed into it. Qin Feiyang grabbed the divine phoenix blade and used the walk word technique, charging towards the monkey-faced old man. Yi Shu secretly said, "Madam, this brat already has the intention to kill. What should we do?" The mysterious lady sighed helplessly. "Let him calm down first, then we'll stop him later." Boom. The monkey-faced old man immediately recovered his divine bow and continuously pulled the bowstring. One arrow after another pierced through the air, densely packed, terrifying sharpness tearing the sky and splitting the earth. But Qin Feiyang's expression did not change. Using the walk word technique to the extreme, he was like a ghost, shuttling back and forth between the rain of arrows, completely unable to catch his figure. Shwa. Finally, he landed behind the monkey-faced old man, and the divine phoenix blade slashed out. With the edge on his back, the monkey-faced old man quivered and immediately teleported away. Humph! Qin Feiyang coldly snorted. Divine light surged under his feet as he followed closely behind. Die! The monkey-faced old man suddenly turned around and used the divine bow in his hand as a stick, smashing towards Qin Feiyang's head. A large part of the void collapsed. Such an unexpected attack. If it were anyone else, they would definitely not be able to react in time. However, Qin Feiyang did not panic at all, calmly raising the divine phoenix blade and slashing at the divine bow. Clang! The 2 divine weapons met in an instant, and sparks burst out. Qin Feiyang was immediately sent flying, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. After all, the monkey-faced old man was a war god. How could Qin Feiyang's strength compare to his? But at the same time, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the divine dragon seal appeared in an instant, shattering the void and smashing into the monkey-faced old man's chest. Puff! The monkey-faced old man suddenly spat out a mouthful of old blood. His entire chest caved in, and his flesh and blood were a mess. Even his 5 internal organs were destroyed. This was the second time he was seriously injured. Did you see that? When he used the divine dragon seal just now, he didn't even move at all. Yu Huang said in surprise. After being together for so long, it naturally understood the divine dragon seal very well. Before evolving the divine dragon seal, it needed to form a seal. But just now, Qin Feiyang did not form a seal at all. It was just at his fingertips. This is the perfect divine art. When the divine art evolves to the perfect level, it will condense into the form of the divine art in the sea of consciousness. Once the form is formed, when you use the divine art in the future, you don't need to form a seal anymore. You only need to use your mind. Mu Tianyang said. So that's how it is. Yu Huang nodded in realization. Little bastard, you have completely angered me. The monkey-faced old man roared, and the divine bow shone brightly. A wave of arrows broke through the sky, like a meteor shower, occupying half of the sky, madly shooting toward Qin Feiyang. So what if I angered you? Moreover, weren't you angry long ago? Qin Feiyang sneered. 500 incarnations appeared. Divine Dragon Seal. As the 500 incarnations snorted coldly in unison, 500 divine seals appeared, carrying the power to destroy heaven and earth. and blasted toward the arrows. Clang! In an instant, the divine seals shattered. The arrows were defeated. Waves of destructive air blasts surged in all directions with an earth-shattering momentum. Tens of thousands of miles of the void turned into chaos. Boom! More than 10 breaths later, the arrows were all defeated, and the two divine seals aggressively blasted on the monkey-faced old man. Immediately, the monkey-faced old man's scream resounded through the sky. His whole body was blasted away, like a meteorite, smashing into the ground below. A huge pit suddenly appeared. What you did to me before, now I will pay you back 10 times, 100 times. Qin Feiyang's body was surrounded by a substantial murderous aura, and the 500 incarnations once again evolved into 500 divine dragon seals, blasting into the huge pit. Rumble! The earth crazily cracked, and ditches appeared everywhere. The monkey-faced old man's scream was endless, and dust covered the sky. Too terrifying. Even the war god is in his hands, and now he can't fight back. Looking at the current Qin Feiyang, the chief pagoda master, and the others couldn't help but feel despair. Yi Shu worriedly sent a sound transmission. Madam, if this continues, I'm afraid he will die in the hands of Qin Feiyang. The mysterious madam frowned, took a step forward, and landed beside Qin Feiyang and said, Calm down. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The mysterious madam said, What I mean is, if you're not angry, then stop. Qin Feiyang said angrily, He is our enemy, and you actually want me to stop. What the hell are you thinking? Although we are enemies now, the future is hard to say. The mysterious madam said, The future is hard to say. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, Speak clearly. The mysterious madam was silent, as if she didn't know how to speak. Let me say it. Yi Shu suddenly said. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and looked at Yi Shu. Mu Tianyang, the chief pagoda master, and the others, as well as Yu Huang and Cui Li, all looked at Yi Shu, their faces full of suspicion. Qin Feiyang, you bastard. But at this time, the monkey-faced old man's angry roar sounded again. He rushed out with a murderous aura, like a man of blood, his old eyes full of resentment. You're courting death. Qin Feiyang used the walk formula, instantly landed behind the monkey-faced old man, and slashed. Accompanied by a scream, the monkey-faced old man's right arm broke on the spot, and blood spurted out like a fountain. The divine bow also flew out of his hand. Qin Feiyang grabbed the divine bow, sent it to the castle, and then waved the divine phoenix blade again, mercilessly slashing at the monkey-faced old man's head. Swish! However, the mysterious madam suddenly teleported to Qin Feiyang's side, grabbed Qin Feiyang's wrist, and then shook her head at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang glanced at the mysterious madam angrily. Hee, little bastard, go to hell. But at the same time, the monkey-faced old man smiled ferociously, and his divine power rolled out, bearing fangs and brandishing claws at Qin Feiyang. You're not done yet, are you? The mysterious madam raised her eyebrows, raised her hand, and slapped the monkey-faced old man's face. Poof! The monkey-faced old man was sent flying on the spot. The skin on his face split open, and he was in an extremely sorry state. Genius memorized this site's address in a second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1756. The monkey-faced old man stabilized his body, touched his bleeding face, and suddenly looked up at the mysterious madam and laughed. Bitch, you want to die too, right? This old man will fulfill your wish. Shut your dog mouth. Do you know who she is? Let me tell you, if you dare to humiliate the madam again, even I won't let you go. Yi Shu shouted. The monkey-faced old man immediately looked down at Yi Shu and roared. You traitor! What right do you have to yell at this old man? This old man has said before. This old man has never betrayed the main tower. Yi Shu said in a deep voice. You helped her against the people of our main tower. Isn't that betrayal? The monkey-faced old man shouted. You'll understand in a moment. For now, shut your mouth. Yi Shu coldly shouted. He glanced at the mysterious madam, then glanced at Mu Tianyang, chief tower master, and the others. Finally, he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, Haven't you always been curious about the madam's identity? Now I'll tell you. The madam is the previous master of the main tower. What? Qin Feiyang's eyes trembled. The main tower master, the former deputy tower master, the monkey-faced old man, and the aquiline-nosed old man all looked at the mysterious madam in surprise. The previous master of the main tower, Mu Tianyang murmured. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly looked up at the mysterious madam. It was her. No wonder she gave him an inexplicable sense of familiarity. For a moment, the place fell into a dead silence. The mysterious madam was actually the previous master of the main tower. This was simply explosive news, and it was hard to believe. After a while, Qin Feiyang came back to his senses, looked down at Yi Shu and said, "I've been to the main tower's land of inheritance, so I know the existence of the previous master of the main tower. It is said that she is the daughter of the second master of the main tower, and also the senior sister of the current one." "That's right." Yi Shu nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "But the problem is, she is completely different from the statue in the land of inheritance." Yi Shu looked at the mysterious madam and said, "Madam, let them see it with their own eyes." The mysterious madam sighed and said, "Wait for me." Then she entered the space artifact. "Impossible. Everyone is looking forward to it. Only the chief pagoda master is shaking his head and muttering to himself." A short while later, a woman suddenly appeared in the void. Looking at this woman, the chief tower master, the hawk-nosed old man, the former vice pavilion master, and the monkey-faced old man's eyes widened. Qin Feiyang was also dumbfounded by what he saw. The woman was about 1.7 meters tall. She had exquisite facial features and an exquisite figure, just like a young girl. Her beautiful black hair was tied up high with a golden hairpin in the middle. She was wearing a pale golden dress with a true phoenix embroidered on it. As she stood there, she looked graceful and noble, like an empress who had descended to the world. There was a great sense of dignity between her brows. "That's right," Qin Feiyang murmured. The woman in front of him looked exactly the same as the statue in the land of inheritance. "I never would have thought. I truly never would have thought that the person who's been targeting my Mu family time and time again would be you. After so many years, you haven't changed at all." Mu Tianyang shook his head and sighed. Qin Feiyang said, "You know her too?" Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "We entered the divine site together back then, so of course we know each other. And I know much more about her than you do. It's not until today that I understand why she's taking care of you so much." The mysterious woman raised her eyebrows and looked down at Mu Tianyang, saying, "Don't say what you shouldn't say." "Why can't I say it?" Mu Tianyang asked. The mysterious woman said angrily, "I'll say it myself. You don't have to say it." Mu Tianyang shrugged and said, All right. You can tell Qin Feiyang later." "Tell me what?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Mu Tianyang smiled and said, "Don't worry. You'll know the relationship between you and her later." Qin Feiyang looked at Mu Tianyang, and then at the mysterious woman. Relationship? What kind of relationship did he have with the previous chief pagoda master? Impossible. Suddenly, a furious roar was heard. Everyone looked at the chief pagoda master, and saw him shaking his head frantically, his face full of doubt. Yi Shu sneered. "She's right in front of you. What's impossible?" "Shut up. Senior sister is clearly dead. She can't be senior sister." The chief pagoda master roared at Yi Shu, then stared at the mysterious woman and shouted, "Who the hell are you? What's your purpose for pretending to be senior sister? Of course you want me dead. Unfortunately, I'm lucky to have lived until today. My good junior brother, are you very scared now? Afraid that I'll tell you what happened back then?" The mysterious woman looked at the chief pagoda master with a sneer and said, "What happened back then?" Qin Feiyang murmured. He remembered that the chief pagoda master had told him that the mysterious woman had died because of an accident. At that time, he was puzzled. Who would be so bold as to attack the chief pagoda master of the Pill Pagoda? However, he did not ask too much at that time. Now that he heard the mysterious woman's tone, could it be related to the chief pagoda master? When the chief pagoda master heard the mysterious woman's words, a hint of panic flashed across his face, and he shouted, "Don't talk nonsense. Since you say you're my senior sister, please take out the evidence." Does this count as evidence? The mysterious woman waved her hand, and a jade pendant appeared. The jade pendant was emerald green and flickered with crystal light. An extremely exquisite flame pattern was engraved on it. This is the second chief pagoda master's jade pendant. The hook-nosed old man exclaimed. Yi Shu looked at the hook-nosed old man and sneered. You still remember? The hook-nosed old man nodded and said, Of course I remember. I was trained by him. When he was in charge of the Pill Pagoda, I was the first pagoda master. This old man will never forget his great kindness. I also remember that he personally gave this jade pendant to his daughter. The monkey-faced old man also looked at the jade pendant in a daze and muttered, It really is his daughter. Yi Shu looked at the monkey-faced old man and snorted coldly. It seems that your memory is not bad. The monkey-faced old man's gaze trembled, and he smiled bitterly. I was also trained by the old man. In my heart, he is like a father to me. Wasn't I also trained by the old man? That's why I've always been by Madam's side. No, I should call you eldest miss now. I used to call you Madam because I wanted to hide my identity as the eldest Mississippi. Now tell me again, am I a traitor? Yi Shu shouted. Greetings, eldest Mississippi. The hook-nosed old man and monkey-faced old man looked at each other, and immediately knelt down respectfully. Get up. Mysterious Madam smiled. The hook-nosed old man got up and asked suspiciously, Eldest miss, since you're still alive, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you return to the main tower? Why did you use the identity of Mysterious Madam to deal with our main tower? Yi Shu pointed at the main tower master and said, Of course it's because of him. The hook-nosed old man, monkey-faced old man, and the former deputy tower master immediately looked at the main tower master. The main tower master's expression became more and more panicked. Yi Shu looked at the main tower master and said coldly, Do you want to say it yourself, or do you want us to say it for you? The main tower master's body trembled. He glanced at the group of people, and gradually collapsed powerlessly. Do you know fear now? Why didn't I see you afraid when you plotted against the eldest miss? You're an ungrateful white-eyed wolf. Yi Shu was furious. He took a step forward, and directly slapped the main tower master's face. With a bang, the main tower master immediately fell to the ground, his face full of fear. Plotted? The monkey-faced old man and the others trembled and said in shock and anger, Yi Shu, what's going on? Back then, he took advantage of the eldest Miss's unpreparedness and used the calamity spirit pill to plot against her. If the eldest Miss had not pretended to be dead and deceived him, she would have died in his hands. Even so, the eldest Miss's cultivation was completely crippled. It was not until she entered the divine ruin that she recovered to the false god realm. All these years, the eldest Miss has been hiding in the 9 regions to recuperate. Because the eldest Miss was worried that the news would leak, and the main tower master would know that she was not dead, she only contacted me over the years. Yi Shu said, Bastard, you're the junior brother of the eldest Mississippi. Back then, the old man even treated you like his own son. Why did you do this? The hook-nosed old man and monkey-faced old man were furious. They glared at the main tower master and shouted. Why else? It's because of the position of the main tower master. Back then, the old man passed the position of the main tower master to the eldest Mississippi. He was dissatisfied, so he plotted against the eldest Mississippi, Yi Shu said in disgust. For the position of the main tower master, you did such a heartless thing. Do you even deserve to be human? Is power really that important? The 2 old men glared at the main tower master. They were both furious. Hee hee. However, the main tower master laughed mockingly. Yi Shu said again. At that time, he had an accomplice. An accomplice? Who? The 2 old men looked at Yi Shu with murderous intent in their eyes. The Mu family. Yi Shu pointed at Mu Tianyang and said word by word. What? The Mu family? The 2 old men's eyes trembled. That's right. Back then, our main tower master was worried that the operation would fail alone, so he joined forces with Mu Changfeng and Mu Changyan. In exchange, he agreed to let the Mu family hide in the Fire Phoenix mountain range and recuperate. Yi Shu said. So that's what happened. Qin Feiyang muttered. Everything was finally clear. The main tower master was greedy for power and colluded with the Mu family to kill the mysterious madam. The mysterious madam had been dealing with the Mu family and the main tower all these years to take revenge. Sigh. I never thought that I, the main tower master, the person with the highest authority in the Forgotten Continent, would be such a despicable and cunning person. Once this spreads out, who knows how many people will laugh at us behind our backs. What a disgrace to the Forgotten Continent. The former Vice Pavilion Master shook his head and sighed. He was extremely disappointed in the main tower master. Genius memorized this address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1757. I'm despicable. I'm treacherous. I'm a disgrace to the Forgotten Continent. Haha. The Chief Tower Master laughed maniacally. Is that not the case? The former Vice Tower Master looked at him and asked, Do you really think that old man treats me well? If he treats me well, why would he pass the position of Chief Tower Master to his daughter? If he treats me well, why didn't he marry his daughter to me, knowing that I like her so much? In the end, he's just a selfish person. The Chief Tower Master said angrily. Qin Feiyang looked at the mysterious madam in shock. He did not expect that this woman was the Chief Tower Master's sweetheart. You like me? What a joke. Do you think we're all blind? Back then, everyone knew that you liked me because of my identity. You wanted to obtain the power that you've been longing for from me. The mysterious madam yelled. The Chief Tower Master yelled. Ask yourself honestly, is that true? If it wasn't for Qin Bati and you. Shut up. The mysterious madam yelled. Qin Feiyang was stunned. How was this related to his ancestor again? Could it be that this woman really had some sort of relationship with his ancestor? What? You dare to do it, but you don't dare to let others talk about it. The Chief Tower Master looked at the mysterious madam mockingly. The mysterious madam's expression darkened. Yi Shu said, Madam, there's nothing shameful about this. Just let him talk about it. Qin Feiyang looked at the three of them and said impatiently, Hey, what are you trying to say? Mu Tianyang laughed and said, Qin Feiyang, you don't understand. This is a secret that very few people know. Secret? Qin Feiyang frowned. That's right. Mu Tianyang nodded and said with a smile. This mysterious madam who has been taking care of you is called Tantai Li. She's your ancestor's woman. What? Qin Feiyang was tongue-tied and couldn't come back to his senses for a long time. Mu Tianyang looked at the mysterious madam and said with a smile, Tantai Li, it seems like you can't say it. Let me say it for you. Then, he looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Do you know the divine beasts of the endless sea? I know, Qin Feiyang said. Gongsun Bei had told him about this before. Back then, when that mythical beast caused havoc and harmed the Forgotten Continent, it was our ancestors who led their subordinates to heavily injure and seal it. The meeting between Tantai Li and your ancestor started from that time. Back then, Tantai Li was already the Pill Tower's head tower master. However, at that time, her cultivation wasn't very high. Facing the divine beast, she didn't have the power to resist at all. She could only watch as the divine beast did evil. Afterwards, your ancestor appeared in the Forgotten Continent. You also know that your ancestor was a warm-hearted person. When he heard about this, he immediately rushed to the endless sea and fought a great battle with that mythical beast. Finally, he suppressed it. It was also at that time that Tantai Li met your ancestor. Women prefer heroes like your ancestor. Thus, the two gradually developed feelings for each other. The last time the Divine Ruin opened, your ancestor took a great risk for her and wanted to force his way into the first level from the second level. In the end, he was almost killed by the power of laws. Mu Tianyang said. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. The mysterious madam had also said this when they entered the Divine Ruin. However, at that time, she didn't mention their relationship. Qin Feiyang looked at the mysterious madam and sighed. I really didn't expect that there was such a relationship between us. That's right. When I first met you in White Fox City, because I didn't know your identity, I wanted to use you, and even almost killed you. You don't hate me, do you? The mysterious madam said apologetically. I hated you in the past, But now, I can't hate you even if I want to. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. The mysterious madam sighed deeply and said, to be honest, it's fortunate that I didn't kill you in the beginning. Otherwise, I would have felt guilty for the rest of my life. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, so later, when you found out about my identity, you gave me battle arts and resources to train me? Yes, that's only one aspect. On the other hand, I used all kinds of methods, such as massacring the creatures of various regions to frame you and force you into a desperate situation. It was also to train you. The mysterious madam said. Qin Feiyang said, you really put a lot of thought into it, but the price is too high. You should know that those creatures who died were innocent. You don't understand. I just want you to learn how to be ruthless. Your ancestor ended up in a situation where his life and death are unknown because he was too kind. I don't want you to end up like him. The mysterious madam said faintly. Qin Feiyang fell silent. No matter what, the mysterious madam was doing it for his own good. He couldn't blame her. Tantaili, although I know what happened between you and Qin Batian in the beginning, I don't understand what happened after that. Why didn't you go with him? Mu Tianyang looked at the mysterious madam and asked in confusion. The mysterious madam pondered for a long time and said, back then, after we left the divine site, the battle between you and him completely erupted. Do you still remember that? Of course. Because of the matter of my second brother being sealed, I was very angry. As soon as we left the divine site and returned to the Tianyang Empire, I gave the order to kill him. That battle is still vivid in my mind. It was also at that time that he destroyed the Tianyang Empire and sealed me. Mu Tianyang said. Yes. After destroying the Tianyang Empire and establishing the Great Qin Empire, he led his subordinates to the Forgotten Continent and found me, saying that he wanted to enter the divine site again, the mysterious madam said. Mu Tianyang asked. The divine site was closed. How did he enter? I don't know. At that time, I also wanted to go with him, because at that time, I was already pregnant with his child. The mysterious madam said. Child? Mu Tianyang was stunned. Child? Qin Feiyang murmured and looked at the mysterious madam in surprise. Could it be her? Yes. Haven't you always wanted to know Rishwang's surname? She's the same as you, surname Qin. She's the biological daughter of your ancestor. The mysterious madam said. The biological daughter of my ancestor? Qin Feiyang was stunned. The biological daughter of his ancestor was someone of the same generation as Emperor Hong. This generation was a little high. No wonder Qin Rishwang often scolded him when he joked with her back then. The mysterious madam also often said something about disrespecting elders and being struck by lightning. So this was what she meant. After Mu Tianyang came back to his senses, he smiled bitterly and said, I really didn't expect that bastard to have a biological daughter. After saying that, he looked at Tantaili and asked, what happened after that? I wanted to go with him, but he refused. He told me that even he didn't know what he would face in the future. He didn't allow me to take risks with him. I know his temper, so I didn't force him. After spending a few days alone with him, he left with his subordinates. The mysterious madam sighed. Mu Tianyang frowned and said, why did he still go to the divine site? I don't know. The mysterious madam shook her head. Qin Feiyang asked, did my ancestor know that you were pregnant with his child at that time? No. If he knew about this, he would definitely stay because of the child. But your ancestor was a person with great ambitions. I didn't want to be a burden to him, nor did I want to force him to stay by my side because of the child. So, I didn't tell him from beginning to end. The mysterious madam said, it's been hard on you. Qin Feiyang sighed. It's nothing. Not long after your ancestor left, this junior brother of mine learned about the matter between your ancestor and me. So he was jealous and joined forces with the Mu family to plot against me. Later, when Rishwang grew up, I asked Yishu to take her to the Central Divine Kingdom. With Yishu's help, I built the famous Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. All these years, I was able to clearly know every move of the main tower. It was all thanks to Yishu and Rishwang. The mysterious madam said. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang hesitated and asked, Then, you and Emperor Hong. I have nothing to do with Emperor Hong. He was born of your ancestor's first wife. When I met your ancestor, Emperor Hong's birth mother had already passed away. The mysterious madam said. That's good. Qin Feiyong nodded and said with a smile. It's not a shameful thing for two people to love each other. Why did you look so embarrassed before? Because Emperor Qin didn't give you any status. It's not legitimate. Yishu said. What era is it now? It's still not legitimate? Qin Feiyong was speechless. Yishu was stunned and said with joy. So you recognize Mrs. Identity? She contributed so much to the ancestor, and gave birth to a daughter. Of course I recognize her. She is Qin Feiyong's relative. Qin Feiyong said. Yishu was overjoyed when he heard that. He looked at Tantai Li and said with a smile. Miss, did you see that? I told you that your worries were unnecessary. Tantai Li's face was also filled with a joyful smile. But, Qin Feiyong changed the topic and said again frowning. But what? Seeing this, Tantai Li became nervous again. According to seniority, I should call you great-grandmother. I'm still not used to it. Qin Feiyong rubbed his head and smiled. Tantai Li immediately rolled her eyes. She thought Qin Feiyong had changed his mind. It turned out that it was because of this that she was nervous for half a day. Yishu shook his head and smiled. He looked at Qin Feiyong and said, Boy, you can't mess up the seniority, especially you and Rushuang. Qin Feiyong was stunned and asked suspiciously, Elder, what do you mean? You know what I mean. Yishu snorted. Qin Feiyong looked puzzled. Suddenly, he looked at Yishu strangely and said, You don't think I'm interested in Qin Rushuang, do you? Yishu didn't answer. But his meaning was already obvious. Qin Feiyong shook his head helplessly and said disdainfully, Elder, you're already so old. Why are your thoughts still so impure? It's not hard to imagine. How could I be tempted by someone who's like a great-grandmother? Yishu looked embarrassed when he heard this. Chapter 1758. Wrong, wrong, wrong. It's not like that at all. But at this moment, the chief tower master suddenly roared. Yishu sneered. Then tell me what's the matter? She was the one who seduced Qin Batian on her own accord. Qin Batian doesn't have a good impression of her at all. The chief tower master laughed sinisterly. Mu Tianyang sighed. How jealous are you of Qin Batian? I'm jealous of him? The chief tower master sneered. Although Qin Batian is my opponent, I won't make things up. He and Tantai Li are in love with each other. Mu Tianyang said. Shut up. What do you know? If it weren't for her, what right does Qin Baishan's statue have to enter my chief tower's land of inheritance? She's a selfish woman. The chief tower master roared. Selfish? If it weren't for the Qin emperor suppressing that divine beast, my forgotten continent would have been plunged into misery and suffering. Do you think he has the right? Here, the one who has the least right to speak is you. Yishu said angrily. No, it's all a lie. The chief tower master looked at the hook-nosed old man and the monkey-faced old man, and said, You too, you must believe me. Don't be fooled by them. Still want to quibble? Yishu was unable to restrain his anger, and he stepped forward and slapped the chief tower master's head with a murderous aura. No! The chief tower master cried out in despair. Old Yi, please have mercy. But suddenly, an old voice sounded. Following closely, an old man appeared in the void not far away. It was Wang Su. He quickly flew over and landed beside the chief tower master. Looking at the mysterious lady, he cupped his hands and said, Old Wang Su greets young Mississippi. You're still willing to come out? The mysterious lady coldly snorted. Wang Su's gaze trembled, and he said respectfully, This old man heard what young Miss said before. The chief tower master is indeed guilty, but all these years, the chief tower master has managed the forgotten continent conscientiously. Even if there's no merit, there's still hard work. Young Miss, please forgive him. No. Yishu shouted before the mysterious madam could say anything. Elder Yi. I know that young Miss has suffered a lot over the years, but these things have already happened. Even if we kill the chief tower master now, what use is it? Why don't we give him a way out, and let him make up for his mistakes? Wang Emo said. Yishu raised his eyebrows and said, There are so many people here. And you're the only one who's pleading for him. Could it be that the two of you? Old man Yi, you can't speak carelessly. I, Wang Su, swear that I am absolutely not in cahoots with him. I only found out about him plotting against the eldest miss just now. Wang Su said in a deep voice. Yi Shu looked up at the mysterious lady. Fine. Let's not kill him yet. We'll make a decision after we return to the main tower. The mysterious lady said. Great-grandmother, you said that my ancestors and I are benevolent. Aren't you the same? If such a person is left alive, there will be endless trouble in the future. Killing intent surged in Qin Feiyang's eyes as he landed in front of the chief tower master and slammed his palm towards him. Qin Feiyang, this is my chief tower's matter. You have no right to interfere. Wang Su angrily said as he threw a punch at Qin Feiyang. If I want to kill someone, do you think you can stop me? Qin Feiyang coldly snorted as his hand turned in the air and slammed towards Wang Su's fist. The fist and the palm collided in an instant. Boom! Wang Su was sent flying, blood gushing out of his mouth. Qin Feiyang ignored him and continued to attack the chief tower master. In short, this person must not be left alive. But just as he was about to succeed, the chief tower master suddenly disappeared in front of him. Everyone present was extremely bewildered. Boom! Qin Feiyang released his divine sense and spread it in all directions. At this moment, he caught two divine space objects in the void in front of him. One of the divine space objects was right next to Mu Tianyang and did not move. The other divine space object was fleeing into the distance. Obviously, the divine space object floating next to Mu Tianyang was Mu Qing and the others. Before, there were a total of 3 divine space objects here. The owners of the 3 divine space objects were Wang Su, Mu Tianyang, and the mysterious man. Now, Wang Su appeared. Mu Tianyang's divine space object also did not move. Then, the divine space object that escaped must be the mysterious man who saved the Imperial Preceptor and Emperor Hong. I'd like to see who you are. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a fierce light as he revived the divine phoenix saber. Swish! But without waiting for the divine phoenix saber to attack, Emperor Hong and the Imperial Preceptor both appeared in the void in front of him. The two's qi had been repaired, and Emperor Hong still had a person in his hands. This person's lower abdomen was dripping with blood, and he looked quite miserable. It was Zhao Tailai. Emperor Hong glanced at the mysterious lady, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, You'd better not move, otherwise don't blame me for being ruthless. Young master, don't worry about me, Zhao Tailai cried out. Shut up. A cold light flashed in Emperor Hong's eyes as he grabbed Zhao Tailai's neck and squeezed hard. Zhao Tailai's throat suddenly emitted a crisp cracking sound. Really stupid, how could I not care about you? Qin Feiyang looked at Zhao Tailai and sighed. He looked at Emperor Hong and said, Let him go, I'll give you a way out. Emperor Hong sneered. It's not up to you now. If you want me to let him go, I can, but as a condition, bring me that stone coffin. Emperor Hong, as the son of the Qin Emperor, why are you colluding with the Imperial Preceptor? Aren't you afraid of being ridiculed by the world? The mysterious lady said angrily. Do you still think of yourself as a member of my Qin clan? Let me tell you, although Qin Feiyang recognizes you, I don't. As long as this old man is here, don't even think about entering my Qin clan's door. Your daughter, don't even think about returning to her ancestry. Emperor Hong shouted. The mysterious lady's face was gloomy. Qin Feiyang looked at the mysterious lady and said to Emperor Hong, I'm afraid you can't make the decision on this matter. What a joke. I'm the son of the Qin Emperor, and the person with the highest seniority in the Qin clan. If even I can't make the decision, then who can? Emperor Hong said. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists. What an old bastard taking advantage of his seniority. Emperor Hong shouted. Less nonsense, give me the stone coffin. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded, looked at Tantai Li and smiled. Great-grandmother, let Li Jian out. The mysterious lady waved her hand and Li Jian appeared. Qin Feiyang looked at Li Jian and said, Give me the Qingkuan pouch. Yes. Li Jian took out the Qingkuan pouch, walked in front of Qin Feiyang, and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Looking at the Qingkuan pouch, Mu Tianyang and the state preceptor's eyes suddenly flashed. Qin Feiyang grabbed the Qingquan pouch, waved his hand, and 2 stone coffins appeared. But he was not in a hurry to open the coffins. He turned to look at Mu Tianyang, and said lightly, "You caught Tang Hai for the stone coffins. Let's not drag it out. Let's solve it once and for all." "Sure enough, it's straightforward." Mu Tianyang smiled and said, "Mu Qing, let Tang Hai out." Swish! Before his voice faded, Mu Changfeng and Mu Changyan appeared with Tang Hai. Tang Hai didn't dare to look at Qin Feiyang, and said guiltily, "Young master, I'm sorry." "Don't say that, it's not your fault. If you want to blame someone, blame the small beast and the ice dragon. Originally, victory was in our grasp, but it was all because they came out to mess things up that we ended up in this situation." Qin Feiyang laughed. Tang Hai smiled apologetically. Since the young master didn't blame him, he naturally didn't need to continue blaming himself. Qin Feiyang raised his hands, grabbed the lids of the 2 stone coffins, and forcefully lifted them. However, it actually didn't open. The coffin lid and the stone coffin seemed to be one, and didn't even move. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang was taken aback. Mu Tianyang and the state preceptor also frowned. Emperor Hong suddenly thought of something, and said, "Try it with your purple gold dragon blood." "Purple gold dragon blood?" Qin Feiyang muttered, cut his fingertip, and 2 drops of purple gold dragon blood dripped onto the 2 stone coffins. Buzz! The stone coffin suddenly emitted strands of purple gold divine light. Following closely, as if it had triggered some mechanism, with a clang, the coffin lid opened a little. Just as the coffin lid opened, 2 terrifying auras roared out from the coffin. These 2 auras were completely different. The aura that rushed out from the right coffin carried a domineering aura. The aura of the left coffin was filled with an evil aura. Feeling these 2 auras, Mu Tianyang and the state preceptor immediately knew which coffin they wanted. "Right," Mu Tianyang said. "Left." The state preceptor followed. Qin Feiyang said, "I can give you the stone coffin, but you have to let them go first." Mu Tianyang laughed. "We'll let them go first. What if you change your mind and don't give it to us?" Qin Feiyang said, "You still don't trust my Qin Feiyang's character? If it was any other time, I would definitely trust you unconditionally, but the situation is different now. I have to be on guard." Mu Tianyang said, "I'm not Mu Tianyang. I've never trusted you. You have to give me the stone coffin first." And Lord Emperor Hong's heavenly great sword. The state preceptor looked at Qin Feiyang and said. Zhao Tailai hurriedly said, "Young master, the axe you gave me was also snatched away by the state preceptor." Tang Hai added, "And my dagger, it's also in Mu Changfeng's hands." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, looked at Mu Tianyang and the state preceptor, and said with a smile, "The 2 of you, the situation seems to have become a little complicated." Mu Tianyang shouted, "Changfeng, who allowed you to do this, quickly return the dagger to Tang Hai." "Father," Mu Changfeng hurriedly said. Mu Tianyang said, "I don't want to say it a second time." Mu Changfeng glanced, took out the black dagger, and threw it to Tang Hai. Tang Hai caught the dagger and sneered, "Haven't you forgotten one thing?" Mu Changfeng coldly snorted, and with a thought, he erased the blood contract in the dagger. The moment he snatched the dagger, he erased the blood contract with Tang Hai and dripped blood to bind it. Originally, he planned to snatch the dagger again after the transaction was completed, but he didn't expect Tang Hai to remember this. Qin Feiyang looked at the state preceptor and said with a smile, "What about you?" The state preceptor reluctantly took out the axe and coldly snorted, "It's just a rusty axe. This preceptor doesn't care about it." After saying that, he threw it to Zhao Tailai. Zhao Tailai caught it in his hand. A hint of ridicule flashed in his eyes. "You don't care about it, and you still want to snatch it? I've never seen such a hypocritical old fart." Chapter 1759. Emperor Hong said, "Heavenly Great Sword." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the heavenly great sword appeared. "Let's trade," Mu Tianyang said. "What's the hurry? Don't you want to know what's inside this sarcophagus?" Qin Feiyang pointed to the sarcophagus on the left and smiled. Mu Tianyang looked at the sarcophagus, his eyes shining. The Grand Master's expression changed slightly, and he shouted, "Don't open it, trade immediately." "So guilty?" Qin Feiyang smiled and waved his hand. The false god power rushed towards the sarcophagus and the lid flew up. A skeleton immediately appeared in Qin Feiyang's line of sight. The skeleton was grayish-white. That strong evil aura enveloped all directions. "Why is it a skeleton?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. The most important thing was that it was also grayish-white. Mu Tianyang said in a deep voice, "That's right, this is the divine body of the demon ancestor." "How do you know?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Back then, when we fought with him, we saw the color of his divine bones. It was grayish-white. Moreover, the length and size of this divine bone is about the same as the demon ancestor's body. The most important thing is that this evil aura is exactly the same as the demon ancestor's." "Qin Batian, that old thing is really crazy. Such a possible demon. But he didn't destroy it completely." Mu Tianyang said angrily. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he waved his hand again, opening the lid of Mu Tianjuan's coffin. There was also only a set of divine bones inside, and the flesh had already decayed. But the difference was that the surface of the divine bones was suffused with a hazy golden light. The mysterious madam walked to Qin Feiyang's side and scanned the two godly skeletons. She transmitted her voice. "Feiyang, no matter if it's the demon ancestor or Mu Tianjun, they are both extremely terrifying existences. Are you really going to return them to them?" "Tang Hai and old Zhao are in their hands, so I can only return them," Qin Feiyang thought. He was also extremely annoyed. It was all that small beast's fault. According to his original plan, not only would he be able to make the Imperial Preceptor and Mu Tianyang suffer heavy losses, he would also be able to destroy the divine bodies of Mu Tianjun and the devil ancestor. However, with the small beast's interference, all of his plans fell apart. Even though Mu Tianyang's side had lost a lot of pseudo-gods, including a divine god of battle, they were nothing compared to Mu Tianyang. Mu Tianyang said, "Hurry up and trade." Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and turned to the mysterious lady and Yi Shu, saying, "Gentlemen, I'll have to trouble you to help me make the trade." The two of them nodded. Each of them carried a stone coffin and the heavenly great sword, respectively heading towards Emperor Hong and Mu Changfeng. During the transaction, none of the three parties played any tricks. The transaction was successfully completed. The mysterious lady brought Zhao Tailai back to Qin Feiyang's side. Zhao Tailai looked at Qin Feiyang guiltily and said, "Young master, I'm sorry I've implicated you. I've already said that it's not your fault. Don't say sorry again." Qin Feiyang glared at Zhao Tailai and looked down at their bellies. He frowned and said, "That's not right. Didn't I ask Cedar to help you repair your Qi? Why hasn't it been repaired yet?" "According to Cedar's repairability, my Qi should have been repaired long ago. However, Emperor Hong and the Imperial Preceptor are not fools. When my Qi was about to be repaired, they destroyed it again." Zhao Tailai said angrily, "My situation is the same. Originally, I wanted to wait until my Qi was repaired before capturing Mu Tianyang and the others. But as soon as Mu Tianyang woke up, he discovered this." Tang Hai smiled bitterly. Qin Feiyang nodded. At the same time, the Imperial Preceptor and Mu Tianyang also put away the stone coffin. The mysterious lady glanced at the people on both sides and said, "Feiyang, do you want to make a move now?" "No need. If we make a move now, Mu Tianyang and the Imperial Preceptor will most likely join forces. Coupled with Mu Tianyang's heaven-defying divine artifact, the situation will be very unfavorable for us." Qin Feiyang thought. "That's true." The mysterious lady nodded. Although they have several war gods on their side, Tang Hai and Zhao Tailai's Qi has not been repaired. The aquiline-nosed old man's Qi is also destroyed. At present, only the monkey-faced old man, the mysterious lady, Qin Feiyang, and Yi Shu have the strength to fight. If they really fight, they will definitely be at a disadvantage. Mu Tianyang looked at Wang Su and said, "Let's start our transaction." "Okay." Wang Su nodded and waved his old hand. Wang Yuanshan and Marquis Wushenhao appeared. Mu Tianyang didn't say anything and directly released Wang Yuanshan's control. Wang Su also released Marquis Wushenhao. "Okay. The transaction is complete. But Qin Feiyang, the grudge between us has not been resolved. Mu Tianyang looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile. Qin Feiyang said, although the ancient castle is sealed and Chang Shui has been taken away by the small beast, I'm afraid that your current strength is not enough to kill me. Of course I know. After all, you still have the Black Tortoise realm. I don't plan to fight here. What I want to say is that our battle will erupt soon. You have to be prepared. Mu Tianyang chuckled and said with full confidence. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, I'll return those words to you without missing a word. Haha. As expected of Qin Feiyang. Then let's wait and see. Mu Tianyang laughed heartily. Swish. The next moment, Mu Tianyang, Mu Zhangfeng, Mu Zhangyan, and Marquis Wushenhao all disappeared. Emperor Hong and the imperial tutor also entered the spatial divine object and left without looking back. Wang Su looked at everyone and asked, what about the chief pagoda master? But no one answered him. The mysterious lady's divine sense had been searching the void. A moment later, she retracted her divine sense and looked at Qin Feiyang, saying, Feiyang, that mysterious spatial divine object and the imperial tutor's spatial divine object went in the same direction. Should we chase after them? Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at Zhao Tailai and asked, Old Zhao, did you see anyone in that spatial divine object just now? Now that you mention it, it's really strange. At that time, in that spatial divine object, other than Emperor Hong and the imperial tutor, I didn't see anyone else. Zhao Tailai said, You mean in that spatial divine object, only the imperial tutor and Emperor Hong were in it? Qin Feiyang said. Yes. Zhao Tailai nodded. It seems that this person's spatial divine object is the same as Mu Tianyang's spatial divine object. There is more than one space inside. When you were captured, he should have been hiding somewhere else. But this person, who is he? What is his relationship with the imperial tutor and Emperor Hong? Qin Feiyang frowned. Wang Su said angrily, I'm asking you, what about the chief pagoda master? Why didn't you save the chief pagoda master from their hands when we made the deal? Don't you understand? Even if we want to save him, he won't come back. Because he knows that even if we don't kill him, there will be no place for him in the forgotten continent in the future. He will be like a rat crossing the street. No matter where he goes, he will be despised. Qin Feiyang said. Miss, back then, we joined hands with Qin Feiyang and slaughtered all the combat emperors of the Mu family. The Mu family will definitely not let it go. So now is the time to use people. Although the chief pagoda master is wrong, but his strength, everyone can see it. If he can turn over a new leaf, it may not be a bad thing for our forgotten continent. Wang Su looked at the mysterious lady and said, You don't understand him. He has been blinded by power and desire, and will never be able to turn over a new leaf. The mysterious lady said. Wang Su said, Then now our pill pagoda has no leader. Who said we have no leader? Hasn't the miss returned? Yi Shu said angrily. That's right. The miss was originally our pill pagoda's chief pagoda master. And now that she has broken through to the war god realm, it is the most suitable for the miss to regain power. The hook-nosed old man nodded. This old man also agrees. The monkey-faced old man said, I also have no objections. The former deputy pavilion master also expressed his opinion. Sigh. Wang Su glanced at them, sighed deeply, and didn't force it. The mysterious lady said, About regaining power, let's talk about it when we return to the forgotten continent. Feiyang, how is Rushuang? Qin Feiyang said, She is comprehending the mysteries of becoming a god. The mysterious lady smiled happily and said, Then don't disturb her. Qin Feiyang said, Great-grandmother, I remember there is an uncle? Why don't I see him? This so-called uncle was the middle-aged man who had helped him with the mysterious lady many times. He lived on an island in the endless ocean. He had the cultivation of a false god. The mysterious lady smiled and said, I guess you will never be able to guess this uncle's true identity. True identity? Qin Feiyang was stunned. The mysterious lady said, He is the divine beast that your ancestors suppressed back then. What? It's him. Qin Feiyang was shocked. If the mysterious lady didn't say it, he really wouldn't be able to guess. The mysterious lady said. But you don't have to worry. A long time ago, he had already turned over a new leaf. Otherwise I wouldn't have opened his seal. It was you who opened his seal, Qin Feiyang said. That's right. Back then, your ancestor used my blood to seal him. Thus my blood is able to undo his seal. As early as 3,000 years ago, I had already helped him open the seal. However, I have no way to open the seal in his body. The mysterious lady said. There is still a seal in his body. Qin Feiyang was surprised. Yes, this seal is specially used to seal his cultivation. As long as this seal exists, he will not be able to return to the cultivation of a war god. And this seal can only be opened by your ancestor in this world. This time, he entered the miracle specifically to find your ancestor. The mysterious lady said. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. Zhao Tailai was surprised. Wait, didn't the Qin emperor enter the third floor? How is he going to find him? Therefore, he has already gone to the third floor. I'm afraid we won't see him again. The mysterious lady sighed. He went to the third floor, Qin Feiyang murmured. He raised his head and looked at the entrance of the third floor with a hint of desire in his eyes. Young master, there are still many things waiting for you to deal with outside. Don't think about entering the third floor for the time being. Zhao Tailai said. Qin Feiyang nodded. He looked at the mysterious lady and asked, Great-grandmother, do you know about the ancient world? Ancient world? The mysterious lady was startled. Suddenly, as if she had thought of something, her eyes trembled slightly, and said, I seem to have heard your ancestor mention this place. Genius memorized the address in 1 second. Mobile version of reading website, M. Chapter 1760. You heard it from the ancestor? Qin Feiyang stared blankly and hurriedly asked. What did the ancestor say? The mysterious madam thought for a moment and shook her head. He only mentioned it casually. He didn't go into detail. Just casually mentioned it. Qin Feiyang's face was filled with disappointment. The mysterious madam asked suspiciously, Why are you suddenly asking about the ancient realm? To tell you the truth, I went to the ancient realm some time ago. I found someone there who knew the ancestor. And what's even stranger is, when Qin Feiyang said this, his expression became incomparably strange. Know him? The mysterious lady was stunned. Her breathing quickened as she asked, Who knows him? Qin Feiyang said, 2 people with the surname Gua. What do they look like? The mysterious madam asked. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. Pseudo-god power appeared and condensed into the figures of Gua Zixiong and Guada. The mysterious madam looked at them for a moment and shook her head. I don't know them at all. Yi Shu said suspiciously. Kid, you said there's something even stranger. What is it? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Zhao Tailai and Tang Hai looked at each other and could not help but snicker. Qin Feiyang glared at the 2 of them. He looked at the mysterious madam and Yi Shu and said, The ancestor arranged a marriage for me in the ancient realm. What's that? A marriage? The 2 of them looked at each other. Yes. Qin Feiyang's face was full of helplessness. That can't be right. When your ancestor left, your father wasn't even born yet. Even if he went to the ancient realm, he couldn't have arranged a marriage for you. Is there a trap here? The mysterious madam asked. The marriage is not just for me. It's for the descendants of the Qin clan. In other words, as long as it's a descendant of the Qin clan, no matter who it is, they have to complete the marriage after entering the ancient realm. Qin Feiyang briefly told her about the marriage contract. I see. The mysterious madam suddenly understood and asked, Where's the entrance to the ancient realm? Her eyes were full of desire. Qin Feiyang was a little hesitant. Even he did not understand the situation in the ancient realm. Should he tell his great-grandmother about it? Eldest miss, the Qin emperor did not take you with him, because he was afraid that you would be hurt. Why do you have to ask about this now? Yi Shu said. Obviously, he could see that Qin Feiyang was in a difficult position. The mysterious madam took a deep look at Yi Shu, then turned to look at Qin Feiyang, and said with a smile, Pretend I didn't ask. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, Actually, even if I told you, you wouldn't be able to enter, because the entrance to the ancient realm is on the 1st level. The entrance the first. The mysterious madam was dumbfounded. Then, a bitter smile appeared on her face. Indeed. Chapter 1762. Qin Feiyang said, "Please tell me, Brother Fire. As long as it's within my power, I'll do my best." The fire python regarded him as a friend and confidant. Of course, he wouldn't let the fire python down. "I know that after you leave the divine ruin, you'll definitely come back. When you enter the 3rd level, you must find the fire dragon and help me get rid of it," the fire python said with a murderous aura. "At that time, if I can come out of the 3rd floor alive, I promise to bring its head to you," Qin Feiyang said. "Thank you." The fire python smiled gratefully. Qin Feiyang frowned and said, "But the problem now is that when we leave, the divine ruin will close. How will I come in?" "You don't have to worry about this. I already know how to come in," the fire python said. "Really?" Qin Feiyang was delighted. "Yes. When I first became a guardian, there were many things that I didn't understand. But after this period of research and listening to Lord Beast God's explanation, I basically know the divine ruin like the back of my hand. One of them is the way to enter the divine ruin. According to what I know, in a place called the Sea of Reincarnation, there is an altar that allows one to enter the divine ruins. And this altar doesn't need the 10 types of alchemy fire. It can be opened at any time," the fire python said. "The Reincarnation Sea?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and said in surprise, "Are you sure it's the Reincarnation Sea? You know about the Reincarnation Sea?" The fire python looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. "If the Reincarnation Sea you're talking about is the same as the Reincarnation Sea I know, then this Reincarnation Sea is in my territory," Qin Feiyang said. The fire python said happily, "Then you must be very familiar with the Reincarnation Sea. To tell you the truth, I've only been there once, and I didn't go deep." Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. "In that case," the fire python pondered for a moment and shook its head, "then we can only wait for you to go out and slowly look for it. The Reincarnation Sea is boundless. If you don't have clear coordinates or some landmark, finding an altar is more difficult than ascending to the heavens." Qin Feiyang sighed. The fire python said, "I don't know the location of this altar, but I heard Lord Beast God say that it's somewhere in the deep sea." "See? Somewhere? It's like looking for a needle in a haystack." "Qin Feiyang," the fire python said, "I also want to help you, but this is all I know. You can only rely on yourself to find the rest." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Have you been to the ancient realm?" "After I brought you to the 2nd level, I made a trip to the ancient realm. According to my emperor, the reincarnation earth it." The beast emperors heaved a sigh of relief. The black eagle glanced at the beast emperors, rolled his eyes, and suddenly said, "Why don't you come with us?" No. Brother Qin will part ways here. Take care." When the beast emperors heard the black eagle's words, they did not continue to persuade Qin Feiyang, and immediately turned to leave. What a bunch of cowards. The black eagle despised them, and continued to fly forward with Qin Feiyang and the others. The mysterious lady frowned and said, "Feiyang, what's going on?" "Zhuge Mingyang," Qin Feiyang said word by word. "Zhuge Mingyang? He's really not dead." The mysterious lady and Yi Shu looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Zhao Tailai said, "Young master, something's wrong." "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Zhuge Mingyang said before that he can only be reborn if he dies in your hands. But this time he died in the hands of your big cousin." Zhao Tailai said. Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice, "This is also what I can't figure out. Could he be lying to us? In fact, no matter who kills him, he can be resurrected." Tang Hai suddenly said. Qin Feiyang said, "At present, this is the only reasonable explanation. There's one more thing. Based on the previous situations, he should be resurrected at the place where he died. This time, Lu Jiejing killed him in the place where Mu Tianjun and the fiend ancestor were sealed. But now he is resurrected in another place. Although we haven't reached the valley yet, from the direction, we know that the two places are thousands of miles apart. What's going on? Zhao Tailai said. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Zhao Tailai asked, "Did you think of something?" Qin Feiyang said, "The fiend ancestor's consciousness." The fiend ancestor's consciousness? Zhao Tailai was suspicious. Yes. I originally thought that the fiend ancestor's consciousness had been obliterated by my big cousin. But now it seems that may not be the case. Qin Feiyang said. Then what is it? Zhao Tailai said. I think it should be the fiend ancestor's consciousness. Before Zhuge Mingyang died, he took away something that could allow Zhuge Mingyang to be reborn. And at that time, the person who drove the space divine object to save the state preceptor and Emperor Hong, as well as the person who kidnapped you, should be the fiend ancestor. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhao Tailai and said. Hearing this, Zhao Tailai pondered for a moment and nodded. It seems that this is the only explanation that makes sense. Why are the young people nowadays so difficult to deal with? Young master is like this, and so is Zhuge Mingyang. Are they all the reincarnations of cockroaches? Tang Hai said. Do you know how to speak human language? Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Just mention Zhuge Mingyang. Why did he have to bring him into this? Reincarnation of cockroaches? Didn't he know that this was an insult? It's the truth.